Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of our weekly Spielworxx chat, season 2. My name is Uli Blennemann and I'm having a wonderful guest today, and it is not David Short, as I announced last week. David will be my guest at a later time, but this week's guest is Matthias Nagy. Matthias, how are you? How is life in
Morning.
Berlin? Yeah, morning. How's life in Berlin?
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. I mean, how can it not be great? I'm in Berlin.
Well, that was a strange start indeed. You are in Berlin, so how can it be nice? So no, I'm
Oh,
having,
thanks.
I'm really, it's my pleasure having you here, Matthias. And we have our first people in the chat. Hello, Matze. Hello, Chris. Good seeing you. Hello, Mo. Hello to Texas. Wonderful seeing you. I hope you're enjoying your vacation in Texas. But before we start with the wonderful Matthias, let me mention one Spielworxx news item. Matt Wolf squaring Circleville is live at Kickstarter and Spieleschmiede, and please consider these campaigns. And here are the URLs, so let me just post them. So this is Kickstarter, and now I'm moving to Spieleschmiede in this high-tech chat here, and that's Spieleschmiede. But now back to Matthias. Please tell us something more about yourself and your background, please.
I'm Matthias. I'm working in this industry for close to 20 years. I started 20 years ago with an internship at Schmidt Spiele,
Mhm.
and I just realized I really like working in the board game industry, but getting in there wasn't that easy at that time. So what happened to me is that I started working for Upper Deck,
Mhm.
and tried and helped them getting OP out of the ground back in the time for Yu-Gi-Oh!
Mhm.
All over Germany.
Mhm.
And later I helped making organized play for all of Europe. And later, after Upper Deck, went to Cryptozoic and
Mhm.
helped them as well. And at about 2010, when that all went over, I started to work for different board game publishers. And at a certain point, I just realized, you know what? I can do it myself. And I started doing my own business and doing my own publishing house. And I started with Frosted Games. And now I also have a second publishing house with Deep Print Games.
So already we can now finish. We now know everything. No, we will. Great introduction. We will take one step back, Matthias. So
Yes.
how did you personally start gaming? Did you play games with your parents, with your friends when you were a kid, or were you introduced much later?
Much later. I remember a time when we have in Göttingen this developer conference where
Mhm.
all the developers from German publishers meet,
Mhm.
and we try to help each other. And we had some panels, and one of the panel there was Anja Vrede,
Mhm.
really great lady doing awesome work, helped with Haba and doing a lot of children games. And she asked who played with their parents. They should stand up, and everybody stood up except me, and everybody was surprised because I never played with my parents, but I still became a gamer from my heart.
Mhm.
Um, I at a certain point I just realized I want to play games because they trigger some elements in me and they make a lot of fun, and so I couldn't just bear it. And at a certain point I just realized, ooh, that sounds like an interesting game. I saved some money, bought my first games, some nice board games like back in the day it was Avalon Hill,
Mhm.
Roadkill.
I played that one. Yeah, it was a little bit based on Mad Max and based on Car
Yes,
Wars from Steve Jackson games. And yes,
yeah,
right. Mhm.
yeah. That was an awesome game, and I also bought some role playing games and stuff like that. And I just went to my local uh, drug dealer, also called friendly local GameStop. I think I went there every week just to look. does he have something new? Does he have something interesting? And then new stores popped up in Berlin, and I started to visit more of them. And at a certain point, I then went really deep down the rabbit hole when Catan came out. And I just realized now I can not only play games with some gamer friends, but also with friends who are not that deep into games. And that was the time at that point it was over. I was just playing games.
Yeah, so interesting because in Germany you may know this there is this tradition to play with your parents. So I'm not surprised that most or all apart from you stood up and said we will play with the parents. I did the same, only traditional games of course, but still interesting. And we have some greetings here. We have Daniel Newman from the US, although he's fluent in Germany. He says Tag. Okay. Thank you, Daniel. And we have Andreas Buhlmann. So good seeing you over there. And he was a guest of the show, of course, as you may remember. And from Matze, Spieletreffenverteiler, we have already one comment here for you. Hello, Matthias. He hasn't played Madeira yet. So what a brute, I can only say. So
even Uli has played Madeira. I think
yes.
I played it once when it was still a prototype, and you stood up after that said, "Ooh, that was too brain burny for me."
Yeah, I'm not the biggest, largest Madeira fan, although it's a great design. That's for sure. And there is greetings to Munich. Hello, Christoph. And he is saying hello, Uli and Matthias. Wonderful seeing you. This is the Christoph you know from. Exactly. So I don't have to tell you that. So did you then have a local group to play games with? So did you have a standard group in Berlin, or did you went to the store and were there in-store gaming? How did you start more organized gaming?
Effectively, it was a group of friends from school.
Mm-hmm.
We met, I think, 3-4 times a week, and we played whatever we got on the table. We played Talisman, we played Blood Bowl, we played all the nice little things that were in the 90s and where you can sink a lot of time into. Especially, I mean, Talisman is just a super simple roll and write, and effectively you have so little amount of decisions to do, but it is just fun sitting with your friends, chatting, playing a game, having a barbecue, whatever. And that stayed for a long time. I think it really changed in the second half of the 90s when, with this new area of board games flooding into the market, I started to help in a local store and said, "Oh yeah, you're not only selling role-playing games and miniature games, but you also start selling board games. I can help you with that." And I run a weekly gathering, like, "Hey, come here. I explain you the games. We can play certain things, and if you come often enough, the store gives you a credit so you can buy something cheaper." And at that certain time, I even met my now wife. So she came to the store and said, "Yeah, I play board games. I can need more players to play with." So we played in the store, and she brought her friend with her. And at a certain point, the store just realized, we want to go out of board games. So I just continued at home. I said, "We do a weekly gathering each week at my home. Come to me. We play there." And that continued until last year when the pandemic hit.
Wow, this is also a long tradition. Wonderful. So these are great news, and it worked out well with your wife too. So great. And Matthias, you already hinted earlier. You mentioned that at a certain point you formed your own company after doing work for Upper Deck, for Cryptozoic, for What's Your Game, and others. So, but what was the reason to form to get professionally in the game industry? First as a freelancer or as an employee, and then form your own company. What was the reason? You could do other things.
I could do other things. I started to. I was at a university studying information technology. And at a certain point, I realized that's so boring and I'm not interested in computers anymore. So what I did is I just said, okay, let's do something else, and then the job at Upper Deck hit me, and I just said, okay, let's do it for 6 months, and if I think I like it, it doesn't work out, I can still go back to the university. And after 6.5 years, I just quit university and said, I don't care about that anymore, and just worked at that point. And when at a certain point, I realized I like to work in this industry. I know some people, let's do more work, do my own stuff. So I became a freelancer and I worked for several companies. I helped at What's Your Game? I helped at Eggertspiele. I helped at Rocco for these little model trains.
Yeah.
I helped a little bit for Yellow. I did some stuff for Hoch. And at a certain point, I just realized, yeah, let's try to find some more people. And I used Essen to go around and get some jobs. And my wife just told me, don't forget to order some advent calendars for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the point where I said, advent calendar. What a strange, stupid, shitty idea. Let's do an advent calendar for board games. So I just wished everything away. I already had all the meetings set, so I just made a new presentation. And I went around in Essen and said, I want to do a board game calendar for Advent. And everybody I showed that idea said, okay, we're in. And at the end of the show, I had 24 slots filled. And I went to Ludo and said, yeah, I want to do something. And I already have the following 24 partners. And they said, if you have these 34 partners, what do you need our help for? I said, yeah, it's an advent calendar. And it was really like, oh, damn, yeah, you need our help.
Yeah, but I remember the calendar. It was a wonderful idea. We get to this because we have a comment here. We have several comments. First, I think Anne Mask, this must be Ben because he's saying the boss is in the house. So probably it's your employee here. If this is wrong, please correct me there in the chat.
Sounds like Ben.
And hello, Steffen. Good to see you. Steffen is one of my regular Vessel gaming partners. So great seeing you here. And then there is a comment from Daniel from the US. He loves Advent calendar when you're saying a strange, stupid, shitty idea. Yeah, but I can imagine these calendars are hard to manufacture because you need to open stuff individually. So the outer cardboard can't be too thick, and of course this is huge, so how to put them on pallets and how to transport them. So is this why you're saying these are shitty ideas?
At that point I thought it was just a strange idea. After having done it for 4 years, I can say it's a shitty idea. Yeah, you need to make a big box, and I mean, if you're producing in Europe, the most expensive part is men work. So
Yeah.
if anybody has to do something by hand, it's the expensive part. If you're producing in China, that's the cheap part. If they need to do some machines, then it gets expensive.
Yeah.
So, but I was doing it in Germany because I said, yeah, I sell it in Germany. I don't know what the rest of the world is. And so what I did is, yeah, let's do it this way and make a big box and put that in there. And all this stuff have to be put in there by hand. And that was the most expensive part. And I just said, damn, if I could have just made a small box and put everything in there, just as a small goodie box, I think it would have cost a fraction of that. But then the nice, cool things will be missing. I mean, it's like, I want to open a door. I want to get something out. I want to be surprised. And that really, really helped that elevating that idea. And it would have not worked without that.
Yeah, and I think what is important here is that it put Frosted Games on the map because it was something that is special. So let's say you would have started with something that all others are doing, putting some cardboard and some rules into a box, then if this would really have the same impact, I'm not sure. But let me scroll back because we have lots of comments here. So yeah, and Andreas is feeling the same here. it's a shame that is no calendar anymore, but I think the chances are pretty low for the future, I guess. Matt, okay. So Andreas, just continue over there. We try to make him do another calendar real soon. There's Matt Wolf, designer of Scrank Circle. Hello, Matt. And he's saying, I lucked that advent calendar back from BGG-Con in my suitcase. I had to put a lot of my clothes in my backpack to make it fit. Yeah, well. And Daniel is again proving that he's a true brute, because he's saying, I would have just opened it all at once and thrown the box away. This is like, you see all the chocolate in the standard calendar and eating it all on the first day. But there is a serious question here from B-Ward. Hello, B-Ward. Matthias, is there a small chance for another victory point game at Frosted? For example, Healthy Heart Hospital. Is there a chance?
The answer is, in theory, yes. I mean, I'm in good contact still with Alan and the rest of the team, even if they're not all at Tabletop Tycoon, who is now owning Victory Point games. And
sadly,
I have my
sadly, if I may say so.
Really sadly. And I have first dip on several of their items they want to release, like the new release of Cruel Necessity and even the new release of Heroes of Weehawken, which I think are both perfect, nice games I would really like to bring to Germany. But I'm sitting there on the other end. I have to wait until they are done with everything that is needed. And I know that I also want to re-release Healthy Heart Hospital. And if that happens, I might bring it to Germany. I'm not against it. I really like the stuff Alan made. So I'm really open for that.
Yeah, I think Alan is a wonderful creative person. So that's for sure. And there's another complaint here from your employee, Ben, because he's saying that you not even told him that you're live here talking to me. Yeah, Ben, one thing is sure, you have to work at that time. It's 6 o'clock in the evening. Your boss is saying, well, you can easily work till 8 o'clock in the evening and not watching some Twitch stuff. So that was an easy answer. And hello, Nicholas. Good to see you. Okay, back here. So how do you see? So you started with this calendar and calendars. Yeah. So you did it more than once. And again,
yes.
Just for the record, maybe there are future calendars. We'll see. But how is Frosted Games doing right now? Or maybe you start a little bit earlier. After the calendars, what did you do next with Frosted Games?
The idea, I mean, let's just come to the name Frosted Games. The idea is, when I made the advent calendar, I said, let's do my own company to even distribute that. And what frosted means, it doesn't have to do with freezing. It's a frosting on a donut, for example. So that was the idea. And that's why also you have the company logo is a frosted box, even with a cherry on top, because that was the idea. I want to do stuff and help also other publishers, like with the advent calendar, where we had a long, there was a link where everybody could just give feedback, how they liked the content, what they liked most, what they didn't like, and what it made with them. And we realized that 50% of all the buyers bought at least one of the games that was mentioned in there, which was an amazing feedback we got. And so I said, let's do more of that. That's why I made an Easter basket. I made a goodie box for the Deutsche Spielepreis, all these little bits. But then at a certain point, I realized that is nice, but that's nothing I can live from, because especially for the advent calendar, most of the money went to charity, because that was also one of the deals with the companies.
Yeah, wonderful. That was also a wonderful idea, yes.
Yeah, so what I had to do was to say, okay, what else would I want to do? And now Uli comes in, because that bastard showed me a game in, I think it was in Mallorca. And I think I played it so often that I just said, I need to reach out to that publisher and make a German version of it. And that was 13 Days. And that was so amazing. It was so intriguing. I just said, okay, that game needs to come to Germany. So I contacted Ultra Pro and they said, sure, let's do it. And I brought it to Germany and I realized there is potential in this market for niche games. And when I say niche games, I don't just mean strange games or war games, but there aren't many companies that are doing games for a fixed number of players. I mean, what Frosted Games then went in the direction was, I want to do games for 1 player or 2 players. Because in the German market, there are just these all these companies that are doing games for 1 to 5 or 2 to 4 or something like that. And yeah, if you're 4 players, you have thousands of games. But if you're just 1 or 2 players, yeah, you can play this one game that is for 2 to 4 players, but the 2-player game is a variant with a extra rule that is not that nice, all that stuff. But I want to say, you want good games, especially for your player number, I want to deliver that. And so I set my focus on these games, and I think that helped, just defining it again, saying I'm not just doing an advent calendar, I'm doing something that nobody else wants to do and nobody else wants to bring to Germany.
Yeah, and I think that was really smart. And Daniel in the chat is saying the same. Aside from the Cosmos 2-player line, there aren't many doing 2-player only games. It's true, and especially at that time, I think the pandemic has changed this a little bit. We see many more 1-player, so solitaire and 2-player games, but you have to remember this is several years before the pandemic. And I think this was also a really truly smart decision to try to do something that is nobody or almost nobody else is doing. And Cosmos at that time wasn't really continuing the 2-player line a lot. So if you take a look, most of the 2-player games, they are from 10, 15, 20 years already. And then they are still doing them, but not in the same numbers.
Which is totally fine. They say, we don't want to do just 2-player games to have our 2-player lines. That's no reason. We just say we want to have a good game. And I mean, the last 3 games they did was Targi, Imhotep Duel, and okay, this Aqualine. We forget the good Aqualine. But these 2 other games that were really amazing. And that's something you also say, okay, if you have a good 2-player games, don't try to make it a 2 to 4-player game. Say it's an amazing 2-player game and release it as a 2-player game, even if you're not focused in 2-player games.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andreas is saying, of course, there are other 2-player games from Pegasus, from Hoch, and others. But I think the general rule here is that there weren't that many. And there's another guest, here, Matthias. It is Nick Case. He's saying, sorry I'm late, guys. Matthias, and this is a shout to you. So the master of the breakfast
cake.
He
comes too late. Already ate our breakfast cake.
Yeah, right. So, and hopefully Nick, Matthias will meet at Laria next year to have more breakfast cake.
I just had a talk yesterday with Daniel. You remember Daniel Gatzer?
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I found this one game that looks so interesting, and I can't find it anywhere to buy." And it was Saga the Noggin Knock. And I said to him, I kickstarted that. I have it here at home. Come around. And he said, "You are brute."
Yeah, which is true. And Nick is saying bloody cake. Yeah, we will have more of that next year. So, but you didn't stay with Frosted Games at the solitaire and 2-player game line. Then you expanded again. So why? What was the reason for this? And what are the most important titles in this newer time frame?
I think the most changes come from having a nice employee / co-worker / friend with Ben, who is doing an awesome job, not only localizing the games, but putting a lot of work into there, that we have good rules, understandable rules, even changing small elements in graphic as everything, like we made a new icon for Nemo's War, that it's easier to transport special information. And he said, I also like to do the following games. And then he said, how about this game? How about this game? How about Kemet? How about Frostpunk? And I said, yeah, sure, show me the games. I will learn it. I played Kemet. I realized, woo, not only Blood Rage, there's another Dudes on the Map game I would really like. Said, yeah, let's do it. And that really helps to broaden the view of Frosted a little bit. Like, it doesn't only have to be these niche games, but we can also do other stuff. But we are doing it always with the idea that we don't lose our contact. We're still doing these niche games.
Yeah.
Like, we just had the line of small button chime games, which are all for 1 or 2 players, because we still cater for that market. But we expand with big games, nice games, where everybody's saying, ooh, awesome, that comes to Germany. And on this way, I'm happy and Ben is happy, and having a happy employee is really, really important.
Yeah, this is true, and as you said, Ben is doing great work there. I can really emphasize this. This is wonderful. Yeah, but in the future, will you concentrate? Will Frosted Games concentrate on localized versions like Kemet or others, or the Button Shy version? Or will you also focus on original designs? So, especially for you overseas persons, Cooper Island by my good friend Ode is not a Capstone Games game. It is a Frosted Games, because Matthias took the game, and Matthias, with team, of course, produced the game. And then it was just licensed to other languages, and not only to English language. But how do you see this, Matthias? I trying to do everything, or just once in a while an original game, or what do you plan?
I have to say that for doing original games, the focus is definitely in different games where we are only doing our own games. And for Frosted Games, we have a big focus. Oh, you don't like the sun? Yeah.
Nah, I like the sun, but not in my face here.
I understand. For Frosted Games, we currently have the big focus on localizations, and we have a lot of games which we really like to localize, and we still have a long wish list of games we would like to localize. Like, I still want to bring Cuba Libre to Germany. I'd have no clue how to get GMT to just say, yeah, okay, you can do it, but that's something I don't see myself giving up soon. But we also have 1 or 2 games in our pipe, which are more like original games. It's not really original games. Like, there was once a game called Witness, and
Yeah, of course, I have it over here. This four-player game, which
you
is,
still have it. That's a good sign.
yeah, I
Yeah,
love it. Although I'm too stupid to really get any clues out of this, but it's a blast. This game is wonderful.
it's a blast. And
Please continue. Please continue. I will try to find it and show it briefly.
yeah,
Continue.
and and the original publishing house, that was Istari. They just how could I say it? They just let the thing lapse, and it was back on the market. So what I did is I just picked it up and said, yeah, give me the rights for Germany. I would like to do a new version of it. And so that's something we are working on. He's looking for it. He has too many games. I see it. It's a black box, Uli.
Can't find it that quickly. Too much shit stuff in there. So, and the box is pretty small, but
It's pretty small.
But it's a great game, and I think a new edition for this one would be wonderful, because it triggers or it hits a lot of buttons, and for various game groups. The problem is, maybe it is not a problem for the length of gameplay, is that you need 4 players. It's not 2 to 4, it's not 1 to 4, it's 4 players.
But so it fits perfectly into Frosted Games.
Exactly. So it's special, and I think a game that only plays like Westphalia, which I mentioned here earlier, which only plays with six, but then needs has a game length of 2 to 4 hours. It's problematic, but Witness, it's for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and it's really fantastic. Um,
And what we are trying to get rid of this issue that you open the box and you see 10 books in there. So what we are doing is we're getting rid of all the books. We will not even have a single rule sheet in there anymore, but we just have a deck of cards. And you just play the games by the cards by going down, 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 down. And there are several cases in this pile of cards. And that makes it a lot easier.
So you already heard it, or you heard it all. There will be a new edition, much easier, much better. So you have your first customer over there. So over here right now. So that's wonderful. But we are having, and we are, Matza, I'm getting to this question in a second, because I briefly touch at least deep print games,
Yes.
Matthias. Because as we have said so far, we have talked about frosted games, and this was an emphasis, a focus of this show. But we are having a question here about deep print games. How was a collaboration with Wolfgang Kramer for the game Renature? And I would like to broaden this question up a little bit.
Yeah.
Please tell us a little bit more about what is deep print games anyway. Who are your partners in deep print games? And then we are moving to Renature.
Yeah. What is deep print games? I started to I have a good friend with Viktor Kobilke, who is an amazing developer, in my eyes, one of the best in the world.
Absolutely.
You know him because you released his first game when he still was a designer.
Yeah.
That was a funny story when I found that out. So he's really, really good at developing stuff. He developed Camel Up, Azul, Mombasa, Great Western Trail, and several others, Rococo. And he just wanted to come back to Berlin. He was working at Eggertspiele in Hamburg for almost 10 years, and he wanted to come back to Berlin. And then he asked me if I would be interested working, if he was working with me. And I said, sure, we don't need to ask. Where do I have my papers so that you can sign? And so he started to work with Frosted Games, and he's the developer behind Watergate and the last long mile of Cooper Island. And I'm pretty sure both games wouldn't be as nice as they are without him. But we also both know that he wanted to have some kind of somehow his own brand, and the idea was to make a second brand where we just highlight, say, this is a brand that Victor is managing. And while we were sitting there and thinking about it, I think it was in Essen 2019, we were sitting with his old friends Philipp Louis and Peter Eggert, and they just both stopped working at Plan B. And there we had these stupid idea to say, let's make a new publishing house. And so that's what we did. We just said, let's do it. And we were all sure tomorrow we will laugh about that idea, but no, it didn't happen. So the next day, we were still thinking about it. It clicked in our head, and we were sitting there in the next evening, and Carsten and Andreas, the two owners of Pegasus, were there, good friends with Eggertspiele, and they said, you know what? You can do it, and we even helped with a little bit money. And we said, okay. And we were so focused on that idea that we managed to get everything out of the ground in 2 months, and started at the beginning of January with this publishing house out of the nothing. And Peter was already looking for awesome games. And that was one of the games he found in that short time frame. He was sitting there with Michael Kiesling, and he looked at it and said, yeah, that's something we can do. And then we started to working on it, and yeah, let's say the rest is history, because it's working awesomely.
Yeah, and Matze, you have to see, these are all industry veterans. So Peter, Philipp, Matthias, Victor, they all know Wolfgang Kramer, they all know Michael Kiesling. So of course, you don't need to make an introduction. If you start a new company from the ground and have no contacts, like in any industry these days, you need a network. Then it's a lot easier to work with such a gentleman as Wolfgang Kramer definitely is. So yeah, Deep Print already has some amazing games out there. Not only Renature, but there's also Kyoto, and there's new stuff coming out in the near
Yeah.
future. Can you hint on some games that are coming out this year, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, we already. I mean, Juicy Fruits and Rorschach have already also been announced. I think we announced Savannah Parks, the next game
Yeah,
from Kramer and Kiesling.
yeah, I saw something on Twitter for sure.
The feedback for that game is amazing. You know, Take It Easy. Of course, you know
Yeah.
Take It Easy or Karuba. Savannah Park is effectively a nice twist on it, but besides the fact that one is just getting a random tile and everybody has to use the same, we already lay out all the tiles at the beginning of the game, and everybody has a random different setup. And then around the table, everybody's just saying, okay, I take this tile, everybody has to use the same tile and place it somewhere else on their board. So you can't look to the left or right and see what is he doing, I'm doing the same. It's not possible. So that is solving one of the biggest issues with these kind of take it easy variants. And at the same time, it makes so much fun. It's so family friendly. It's awesome. And the other game I would like to hint at is our Essen release, because everybody was expecting when Victor is involved and Peter is involved that we will see heavy games. And yes, release number 6 and 7 are both heavy games.
So you mean 3 kilos each per box, right?
Yeah, something like that. So I think just for the rules.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so our Essen release is a game. It fits more into the strategic niche. It's Kenner Plus. We are not sure if it's still Kenner or already Expert, but it has an interesting mechanic with the resources have limited time. They expire during the game. So if you don't use them in time, they just vanish for you. And you still need to generate new resources. And you have some special machines that generate your victory points, but you need to replace them during the games with new machines because they are just, you need to get more points in that way. That's a really, really nice game. And then beginning of next year, we get a great game from some designer from a country just next to Germany. Let's put it this way.
There aren't that many countries around. How many are there? 7 or how many?
Let's take one of the southern countries.
Okay, we'll see. Andreas, by the way, has 2 questions here. The first 2 games had nature themes, so Renature and Kyoto, environmental themes. Was this just a coincidence, or did you do this on purpose?
It's easy to say it was on purpose, but the truth is it was it just happened.
Okay, but he's saying, is there a general strategy behind Deep Print games? And I guess you have a broad field of customers, because you're saying we have these games like Savannah Parks, which is pretty easy. You have Fruity. What's the title? Fruity.
Juicy Fruits.
Juicy Fruits, which is family, I would say. I played this game in prototype format. It is very good in my opinion, so check it out. And then you have now, as you hinted, a really, truly Kenner Plus game. So are you trying to do everything or just concentrate on various segments?
What we are trying at Deep Print Games is to bring new type of games where we feel safe to say this is an interesting game. We don't care if it's just a family, it's a Kenner, an Expert, or even above game. We think that we just had a prototype on a table where even in the fourth play, even Victor said, I think I just made an error during our first round and I lost the game. So it was really, really heavy. And we are still thinking about doing that one. But what we want to say is that when we do a game, what we didn't we wanted to say deep print means for deep development. We take the game and we develop it until we say, yes, we are happy with the game. We want to bring it out in a way like this, and we don't just want to release it. And if we are not happy, then it might take a bit longer. Like Juicy Fruits, which should have been out in February, and now it's June, but it just took a small bit longer because we wanted to be happy with that game.
Yeah, makes total, absolute sense. Let's move, and we can't finish an episode here without looking at the German convention and fair season for the fall. So, what do you think? In September, right now, there's a convention planned in Berlin, so in your home city. And then, of course, 1 month later, there is Essen. And right now it looks like it will happen. So how do you see? Do you think there will be a Berlin Con in mid-September? Do you think there will be an Essen? And how will these conventions and fairs look like, in your opinion, Matthias?
From my gut feeling, I think, yes, both of these conventions will happen. But they will be a lot smaller. I mean, BerlinCon will be smaller because there will also be less publishers. But my idea is to be there. And Essen, I know there are a lot of people who want to have a booth there. You don't, as far as I heard, but
I will get to that in a second.
Yeah, but Deep Print Games will have a booth there, and I think Frosted Games as well. And but we all know that we will not have 200,000 people there. We have maybe 50,000. I know the space between the booths will be much bigger. There will be a lot more space, but that is okay. I mean, my plan is not to have any business meetings on site. We will see how the demos will work. But the idea is to be there and to show the flag and also to support these events, because I mean, it might not be the most important to be at Essen in a year like this one, and we might not even sell many games. But I still want to go to Essen in the next 10 years or 20 years, and I fear if you don't support them when they're in trouble, they might go away, and that would be a sad thing.
That would be a shame. I agree, and we have, and because Andreas has this comment, and will you join the conventions as publisher? And Matthias has already answered this, yes. And BerlinCon, I don't know. I will be fully vaccinated in mid-September, but actually I don't know. If it is a smaller convention, I don't know, because for me it's a long travel, so I'm unsure. At Essen, most probably I will be there as a publisher, but just with a small booth this year. So, and again, I doubt that anything really comes out of this sales-wise or this, but at least it's a little tribute to see, to support the organizers and the fair. But I need to see also a concept, what's behind it. Because as I mentioned here, I think last week or 3 weeks ago, from Gen Con, I get lots of mails on what they are planning. From Essen, I do not get them. So I don't know what is planned. I know it's very hard to look into your glass bowl and then see what will be Germany in October. But still, I need some information here. But
I think there's the big difference between these two shows is, first, the team that is organizing Gen Con is about 4 or 5 times as big as the team behind Essen. Essen is still a small team. There are 5, 6, maybe 7 people, but not more. And Gen Con, you have 20, 30, 40 people who are helping, setting up the show, running it, etc. And the other thing is that the situation in the US is even better than in Europe. There are a lot more people who get vaccinated. It's a lot easier to plan certain things. In Germany, we still don't know, are we even allowed to handle that? Because the politics, the local majors doesn't know if he is allowed to let that show run. Yeah. So that's way harder to communicate any situations there.
Yeah, but I need I think it's only fair if you ask for money, and that's what Merz Verlag, the organizers, is doing. You were supposed to pay till mid-May. That there are several scenarios, and in my opinion, it's not an excuse if you have a small team. If your team is too small, increase it. You know this from the company size. So I would say, well, this is so-so. But there's another great question for you in wearing your Dprint hat from Matt. He's saying, are you taking pictures for Dprint? Asking for a friend. Yeah, Matt, just drop, I think, Matthias, after the show, drop him a tweet and he'll respond. So,
I want to say to Matt, I liked all the videos that Uli rejected.
yeah, well, I had to reject them. But before we finish here, I have to ask a Mallorca secret question here, Matthias. Of course, Matthias already hinted on this. Matthias is a regular part of the Mallorca gatherings that Andreas, who is in the chat, is organizing. And we are always having a great time, editors plus a few designers, authors. And of course, Andreas was my guest here too. But Matthias, now my direct question. In all the years that you attended that event, were you even once in the pool? Did you hit the pool once? I never saw you there. So, honest answer.
I'm pretty sure there was a year where I was in the pool, and I'm pretty sure there are some pictures of that.
Andreas is saying, yes, he was. I took him with me. So you probably were hit because I thought about this and I thought I never saw Matthias in the pool. And I'm hitting the pool every 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, but you shouldn't forget that in the last several years you were at the upper finca. I was at the lower finca, and the pool at the upper finca is what was much nicer. But you remember that one year where we weren't at the old fincas from Ralf, and not at the current one, but the one between there.
Yeah.
I was one of the people in the other finca where also Matthias Wagner and Thorsten Gimmler and so was. And I remember that at several evenings when we drove back, we all just went to the pool to cool down before we went to bed. And that was a nice year, even if the fincas were not perfect. They had awesome tables, but not enough light. But that was, as I remember, I was in the pool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that secret has been uncovered, and Andreas is even mentioning the dates for 22. So it's June 27 till July 4. And I know that Matt, you asked for being a part of it. So there are a couple of designers, authors being there, and you have to ask Andreas Buhlmann here. So for it, or you can ask me, and I will forward your mail to Andreas. So that would be great. And Nick is making a nice comment, Matthias, about the pool action. There needs to be a cake in the deep end to get Matthias wet. So
I can tell Nick, you don't need to come to Mallorca because there is no cake at the breakfast, unfortunately.
If Nick is there, there will be a cake. So we can make this.
Yes, I would make sure to have cake there. And Matt, just to tell you, if you want to come to Mallorca, be prepared because Uli is also there.
Yeah, of course.
I just wanted to highlight the lowlights, you know.
This is true. This is true. So thank you, Matthias. This was wonderful today. How can people best reach you? What is your favorite way to get in touch with you?
The most easiest way is to just hit me up on Twitter. I'm at DarkPact or at Frosted Games or at Deepprint Games. And you can reach me there easily. Probably it's easiest at DarkPact. And of course, you can also write me an email, look at my webpage, or you can try to concentrate and send me some neural messages via telepathy. But I can't guarantee that my answers get through back.
we better now close this affair for this week. So next week is a regular episode with me presenting Spielworxx and industry news. And please think of squaring Circleville in the meantime. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Matthias. This was wonderful. And if you would like to see a special topic discussed here or have a question that you'd like to ask in advance, just drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. Until that time, bleibt alle gesund. Black Lives Matter. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye bye.